We don't talk about celebrity topics too much for a good reason, but I figured since this is in the realm of my channel and what I speak about, this would be a good opportunity to use this celebrity as a case example of the three fates in real life. And who else will we have this week than the flavor of the week, Doja Cat. And no, for all the C Boogie fans, her name is not Doja Cat, it's Doja Cat. Doja coming from the strain of marijuana. Her real name being Amaloranta Sandali Diomini. Hope I didn't botch that one up, but we'll just use Doja Cat for the sake of time. She comes from a very interesting background in which she, as you can see here, is a biracial woman who is a descendant of a Jewish American mother who is a painter and a South African black father who is an actor, composer, and film producer of Zulu ethnicity specifically. And a lot of people are wondering, why is she getting so much clout and so much notoriety within the past few weeks? Well, I'll explain that to you in the video in my breakdown of how this is an example of the three fates in real life. Now, if you don't know her, she's released several single hits, including So High, Say So, Juicy, and the notorious memed video Moo, as well as albums Purr and her recent one Hot Pink. Now, into looking at her life, she was raised with two parents initially. She was born in California, so obviously that's an SYSBM friendly state for the most part, give or take some of the far leftist locations you can find within the Bay Area and Los Angeles proper. But as far as that's concerned, she was born in Tarzana and she moved to places such as the Bronx, Oak Park, as well as Sherman Oaks. So obviously, I'm not surprised there. However, what I am somewhat surprised by, even though a lot of critics and detractors will say this is a common occurrence, is how the parents didn't last. Specifically, when they moved to Rye, New York, they were a couple along with Amala at the time. But when Amala came back to California, particularly Oak Park, they were divorced. Now, also looking into this, you had a father who, I'm not going to say he left the family, but let's just say they split up, and the mother who would eventually take her single child to an ashram, which is basically a spiritual monastery in Hinduism. And combining those things, I want to really discuss on that in a bit. So those are just footnotes that I wanted to touch on before I really get into this character. Now, looking at some of the more raunchy things she has stated throughout her social media life, in 2015, she was accused of calling two rap artists the F word, and we're not even mention what that is. You all should know what that is by now, in which she, instead of outright apologizing, actually sort of defended herself and leaning on her immaturity and just the way that she was raised as the reason why she mentioned that. And there's actually a video out there basically saying that, yeah, I apologize. You got a problem with that? You F words? So let's just say that that apology was a half apology at best. Also, there was actually one song that she produced in 2018 called, yeah, guess what? Didn't Do Nothing. I kid you not. There's a song out there that she made, Doja Cat, called Didn't Do Nothing in 2018. Now, a lot of people, particularly those from the community and from parts of the manosphere, want to know what I think about this. Well, quite frankly, these three things come to mind. One, it took the community 2 years to find this and call her out for it, compared to 2 months to do the same thing to CJ King for something far less egregious. So that's the first point. Number two, she's gone after multiple groups, particularly the last point I pointed out with the F word, as well as several other things that she has mentioned that are politically incorrect. And number three, let's get on that didn't do nothing phrase. Does the community take didn't do nothing seriously? Let's be serious. The only time the community will ever use the defense of didn't do nothing is when one of their own, mainly a Bebe Kid, a Pookie, a Ray Ray, a Little Skillet, a Man Man, a Little Twin, a Twin Bone, a Little Bone, a Milk Bone, basically just a do nothing in society gets caught up with the law. I have never seen, in my time here, the didn't do nothing defense being used in the behalf of thanking men, or women for that matter, well, maybe someone, but thanking men who were caught up between the law unjustifiably. So as far as that's concerned, if you want people to take your plight seriously, you need to take your plight seriously. And you need to be seen as a group of individuals that are taken serious. And this is probably the reason why she doesn't really claim her black side like that. Which, let's get on the black side. She's not ADOS. So why is it that the community all of a sudden cares what a half black immigrant does? These same individuals were not the ones who brought Doja Cat into the limelight, into popularity and fame. Not a lot of people in the community were rocking Doja Cat until maybe a year ago. And that was only because the mainstream society was giving Doja Cat some sort of fame and notoriety. I'm not saying what she did, particularly with the song, was right. This definitely wasn't bad taste, and I'm not going to stand by it or put on the tap dancing conservative shoes of her just saying, oh, she can say whatever she wants because it's a free country in America, MAGA. No, we don't play those games here. We don't play the conservative games over here because, for starters, I'm not getting paid by the conservative alt-righters like some black conservatives. And also alongside that, we are about consistency in this channel. Granted, that's probably the reason why my channel hasn't blown up like others, but that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. But in any case, as far as Doja Cat's song that didn't do nothing, look, it's in poor choice. I will give the community that much. But at the same time, if you want to be taken serious, you need to take your plight serious and pick which ones that society needs to take serious. Also, alongside that, since we're criticizing the community, which we all know is a pastime on this channel, I think a lot of the community isn't mad because of the Didn't Do Nothing song itself. They aren't really mad because she's a biracial woman who is mimicking the worst attributes of Ados Daggles, which, to be fair, yeah, she's biracial, but her mannerisms that I see half the time are basically that of the Scraggle Daggle. I hate to say this. But more importantly, the community is mad that she is thicker than a Snicker, but isn't a light-skinned SJW. See, here's how the community works. If you are a light-skinned or biracial woman in the community, you are expected to cape up for the community by any means necessary, even if that same community treated you like dirt, specifically the females, and I'm talking about female, light-skinned, biracial women. But even if the Daggle treated you like dirt, you are still expected to rep your black side, and you're only your black side. Now, don't claim any of that multiracial crap. We abide by the one drop rule in the community. That's because that's what Sadie and the Daggle says. Because we run this country. This is America. Anyway, as far as going out of your way to stand up for yourself, even as a biracial woman, that is a cardinal sin. Heck, even as a biracial man, standing up for yourself is seen as a sin. But especially as a light-skinned woman, you cannot do that because, one, there's so many women who, even though they hate you in the community, these same Daggles rely on you in order to give them sort of clout and to make themselves feel as close to being not Daggle as possible. And also you have a bunch of simps, particularly your baby's kid, community mediocre Negroes who need to feel as if they need to escape from their issues and look towards light-skinned women to do so. Hence the reason why a lot of them will grovel at the sight of light-skinned or biracial women, even if said light-skinned or biracial woman takes pleasure in degrading their dignity. That is what this is about. A lot of people within the community can't stand Doja Cat because she has her clout and she was given some press and praise by the rap industry. I get that. But who are the biggest consumers of rap, particularly the kind of rap that Doja Cat has? The memes and the quirkiness and the cow suits. Come on. Do you see people in the community really rocking with Doja Cat? Yes, rap at this point is all but mainstream. And there's a kind of rap that the community indulges in or finds good enough or approved enough or swagified enough for the communitists, the mediocre Negro conformies to listen to. And there's a kind of rap that the rest of American society listens to. Answer on which part of America really gave Doja Cat her status. So as far as that's concerned, the community is in no need in order to play the SJW role against Doja Cat because they're butthurt about a few things that she said. Now, as far as the gang sunk that dunker quote, I had to look that one up myself, and it still doesn't make sense to me, but apparently according to the definition of gang sunk that dunker, which was the phrase that Doja Cat responded to Lana Del Rey's post about how several individuals are able to make money and make a living off of sexualizing themselves, in which Doja Cat responded with that exact quote. But the meaning, according to what a lot of sources state, is gang, meaning friend, sunk that dunker, meaning really made a good point, or she really drove the point home. So for the most part, it sounds like Doja Cat was giving Lana Del Rey her props, but who knows? I could be wrong, but I know a lot of people are trying to twist that as if she was trying to say something degrading towards Lana Del Rey. But in any case, there's also a couple of stories on Instagram how she was on a hangout with a bunch of alt-writers and incels, and I've looked at those videos several times, and while, yeah, there were jokes there. One, I'm trying to find a racial joke. I'm trying to find the part where she said a racial joke, a knock-knock baby kid joke, but I have failed to find one so far. And as far as anything else is concerned with this story, look, yes, she has made several politically incorrect comments throughout her social media life. I will recognize that. And to be honest, I'm going to have to blame someone in the end, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But for starters, she's quirky. Alright? Doja Cat, Amala, is a quirky girl who, I mean, yeah, she's barely a woman. I'm just going to be honest. She is barely a woman. She's like, what? Not even 25 years old yet? And I'm not excusing her for maturity, but let's be honest. A lot of American society has stifled the maturity of today's young men and young women, especially the younger millennials and Gen Z. So, if you want to blame someone, you gotta blame society at large. As far as the quirkiness, obviously, this is not your standard female in general, especially considering how she had quit school when she was 17, stayed in trap houses in order to hone in on her craft, and for all intents and purposes, did her own thing by herself, essentially, with the help of almost no one, at least in the beginning. And whatever talent she had, she used it to the best of her ability. Now, will I call that talent personally? That's not up for me to decide in this video. But quite frankly, you can't say that she doesn't have hustle, which is something that the community loves to look up to. Oh, you gotta have that hustle, man. Oh, I hustle. You know what I mean? Hustle. So as far as her quirkiness goes, a lot of the community wasn't biting it, but a lot of mainstream America was. 2, she's an edgelord. And if you don't know what an edgelord is, it's essentially someone who gets a high or a rise off of saying just the most controversial things for the sake of not even being mean or offensive, but for attention. And getting into the mind of a lot of young millennials and Gen Zers, the edgelord culture has been on the rise for some time. Think about it. These individuals grew up in the era where political correctness was considered the norm and something that you should do. So, as far as that's concerned, if you grew up in society where it was to the far left, then obviously you're going to have a lot of individuals who feel as if breaking the mold means going to the far right. As far as that's concerned, this edgelord culture comes at no surprise to someone like me looking at someone like Doja Cat. That's what she's doing. I can't call her a racist. I can't even call her a homophobe. But she is definitely a quirky edgelord, to say the least. And the ultimate thing before I go. This woman has daddy issues. Anyone who makes a song about didn't do nothing and acts the way she acts, in certain instances, I'm not going to say she's the worst individual out there. Granted, she is hanging out with unsavory company, such as some of the daggles that she's making music alongside with and are listening to. But this is the reason why I emphasize that for men going SYSBM, particularly thinking men, thinking brothers, you need to make sure that you are in it to win it, that you are in it for keeps. that you, one, make sure you choose a quality Stargate, which, to be honest, if you have someone who feels if going to some monastery with a kid when she's barely a teen is a good idea, you may want to reconsider the Stargate that you're about to make your progeny with. And alongside that, we got to put the blame on the father, because even in this case, the father claims that he has a good relationship with the daughter, and he comments on her Instagram and social media stories a lot, even though she thinks it's weird. As far as I'm concerned, this dad was not in it to win it. He, for whatever reason, decided to give up on the marriage, give up on the family, and not even just the marriage. I'm not going to even criticize him for the divorce per se, but he barely had any role in Amala's upbringing, which is where I have to pin the blame on him. And this is where I have to give men who are dating, marrying, and procreating with women outside the race a stern reminder that besides the multitudes of entities that want you to fail, remember that you have a lot of pressure in order to raise stable kids. Not just because you are procreating with someone outside the race, but that's just the societal thing in general. We've seen how broken homes, separated households, and divorced families work out. We see in this decay of American society in general. So, if you are any sort of man who brings any sort of life into this world, you owe it to your progeny that you select the proper Stargate, and then once you do that, you owe it to that progeny to make sure that you make it work with that Stargate, or at the very least, make it work with the kids. Be involved in their lives. Give them some sort of shining example so that they won't go and get lost in this tumultuous world where they end up in trap houses and edgelord forums and singing about didn't do nothing and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not saying Doja Cat is completely lost, and most certainly she shouldn't be at the bitter end of a tenacious cancel culture, which is just looking for anyone and everyone who doesn't follow their script to attack. I'm not saying that Doja Cat is a completely lost case, but from what I'm seeing so far, the signs do not look good. But also, as it doesn't look good for her, this definitely doesn't look good for the community, because individuals like Doja Cat are going to be the result of the Three Fates Black Man, particularly the multiracial class. The multiracial class that will use the community for what it's worth, but at the end of the day, will probably not want anything to do with the community. See, these are going to be the individuals, multiracial individuals, who will have little to no sympathy for the plight of the community, whether because her father left and she holds a grudge to that to this very day, or whether it's because of her quirky demeanor and how a lot of the community's baby's kids reacted. But this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the up-and-coming new generation of biracial Americans who will make it known that even though they will say they are a part of your race, as she stated in that apology for the Did Knew Nothing video, in reality, a lot of them want to distance themselves away from the community and anything reflecting it as much as possible. Everyone else out there, always bet on X.